Hello, Veteran Outdoorsman here. And many have already gone through youth season. Many have it up and coming. I should have put this video out a while ago. But deer season, rifle seasons and things, they're either starting or they're coming up, etc. And many of us are thinking about, well, I'd like to take my kid deer hunting. They've expressed interest, but I'm not sure I want to spend the money to buy them a rifle that fits them, etc., because I'm not even sure if they're going to like it. And unfortunately, not all children pick up the passion that we do. Hopefully they do, but it doesn't always happen. I mean, I love the outdoors and have since I was little bitty. I've got a sister that just really, she'll fish every now and then, but she just never really got into it. Um, it happens. So let's talk about some firearms that you may already have or have access to that will work for a child. Now let's define child. In my state, a kid can start deer hunting with an adult when they're 6 years old. By the time a child is 14, 15 years old, they can probably use a smaller caliber adult rifle, things like that. But let's say between 6 and 13, and let's cover some of those areas. Some weapons you may already have, some things you may have access to, etc. Most of us that are gun enthusiasts have an assortment of rifles, carbines, etc. And one that's very common, you think, well, I'm not spending the money on this. No, this is if you already have it, would be some sort of AR-15 platform. Now, this is what my daughter will use this weekend for youth season. Has a red dot sight, makes it very easy for her to acquire the target. Has an adjustable stock. I shorten it all the way down. She's 9 years old. She's fairly short. She's got small arms. Fits her very well. Very low recoil. This is a 223-556. Perhaps you have one in 7.62 by 39, 300 blackout, 6.5 Grindle, 6.8 SPC. All of those would be good for a child, low recoiling, etc., etc. Something you may already have, adjustable stock, low recoil, red dot sight, easy for a child to shoot. And they love them. Something else, now you used to be able to buy these for about $100. They're a little more expensive now. But you may have one. Maybe you picked one up during the surplus craze. Maybe you have a buddy that has one. I'll let you borrow it. They're short length of pull, low recoil, chambered 7.62 by 39. This is an SKS. This particular one is a Chinese. The Yugos tend to be a little bit heavier, but they will work. They get a short length of pull. They do have the iron sights, so it's not as easy for a child to shoot, but low recoil, because it's gas operated, it's a lighter cartridge, etc. More than adequate for deer out to, say, 100 yards or so. While we're on that subject, I don't recommend the child the first several years they're hunting, even if they practice at longer range, allowing them to take a shot much more than 50, maybe 100 yards, because there's just too many things can go on. Sit in a spot that's thick. Sit in a spot where deer are going to come close. Put a stick in the ground, whatever, and limit their shots, because you want the chance of success when they pull the trigger to be the absolute best. The last thing you want is for a child to wound their first deer and not recover it. So you want to put everything in their favor. If they're seeing animals and not getting a shot, you can explain that to them, hey, this happens, it's called hunting, not killing, etc. But if they shoot one and don't recover it, that child may never hunt again. You want to really get their chance of success up there, so you want to limit their shots. Oh, plus a lot of times it's going to be something like like that SKS with iron sights, things are going to be getting excited. Keep their shots close. You may have. This would be more for older children. It does recoil a little more. But you may have something like this sitting in your closet. A 30-30 lever action, fairly low recoil. I wouldn't recommend this for young girls. It's going to kick enough that they're probably going to flinch. My daughter didn't enjoy shooting it. As far as she liked the blast, but she said it hurt her shoulder. So for maybe your 12-year-old boy, you got one of these sitting around, be great. Just a lever action or single shot 30-30, something you've got sitting around. Maybe you have a bolt action 243 or something with a shorter stock. You don't want the kid to have to reach out like this. If you've got a chance, most bolt action rifles you can buy an aftermarket stock, a fairly cheap plastic stock. Cut it down, put that on the rifle so they can shoot it, and then later as they grow you can put the adult stock back on it, or if you want to shoot it you can put the adult stock back on. And then now this is probably going to get me some hate mail, probably going to raise some controversy, but Hi-Point carbine in any caliber other than .380. I would not recommend the .380. Someone will say, but the 9mm, that's not enough. The 9mm, especially with a heavier 9mm load, out of this, is roughly the equivalent of a .357 out of a handgun, which has killed numerous deer. Out to 50 yards, it'll kill a deer, no problem. I've personally taken this a few times. I haven't been lucky enough to harvest one yet. It's got peep sights. It's short, low recoil. They make them in 40 caliber, 45 ACP, 10mm. Take the kid out, shoot, see if they're comfortable with it. That's something you can consider. Another firearm that I didn't get out was a short 410 that I bought for my daughter to hunt squirrels and rabbits, things like that. And the first year that I took her deer hunting, we loaded it with slugs. We went out and shot at about 30, 35 yards. She was able to shoot groups about like that. And I said, well, that's just as far as I'm going to let you shoot. And we took it deer hunting. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to kill one. And someone will say, well, 410's awful light. I said, you're going to pick the shots for them. You're going to be sitting with the child. You're going to make sure that it's broadside. You're going to make sure that it's close. You're going to have drilled into them shot placement. You're going to practice. Take pictures in magazines and things of deer. Give them a Sharpie. Here, mark where you would shoot this deer in this position. Mark where you'd shoot this deer in this position. Blah, blah, blah. Walk out in the yard. Step out different spots. Is this close enough? Is this close enough? And teach them what they can and cannot do. And these weapons will work just fine, including a 410 with slugs. Now, some people are going to say, well, I've got this little short 20 gauge, and I think I'm going to... if you've got a boy in the older age range of this, 12, 13, that might work. But we probably all remember our first single shots. Maybe we were lucky and it was a 410 and it didn't recoil that bad. Maybe it was a 20 gauge. Maybe Dave gave us his old Stevens 12 gauge single shot. And we remember that it beat the tar out of us. I don't recommend, especially for deer hunting. Now you can put field loads and things and shoot squirrels, rabbits and stuff, and it's probably okay on a heavier gun. But I don't recommend 20 gauges or 12 gauges with slugs for a child until they're 12, 13, 14 years old, because they recoil more than most deer rifles. And it's not going to be fun, and they're going to flinch, and the deer's going to come by, and they're going to close their eyes and squeeze the trigger and hope for the best. And that's not what we want. I can remember getting ready to go on a deer hunt, And I had a 12 gauge single shot New England Firearms. My dad bought it for me when I was 12. Um, I love that gun. I still own it. I shot the tar out of it. And that's what I wanted to deer hunt with. We were hunting a place that you could only use shotguns with slugs. So that wasn't a problem. But we took it out and shot it, and I could shoot with shot shells and I was fine, but slugs just pulverized my shoulder. And my dad said, "No, you're not doing this." My mom had a youth model Winchester 120 pump. Um, and yes, that was a model. Somebody's going to correct me and say, "Oh, it was a 1200." No, it was a 120. Look it up. In 20 gauge, which was heavier and lower recoiling because of 20 gauge, put an improved cylinder choke on it. That's what I hunted with the first couple of years. Then I moved to an SKS. Then I moved to a muzzleloader, and then eventually to a 30-06. But find something. Chances are you have something in your gun closet that will work for your child for the first couple of years until you know that they're really going to be into hunting and you can afford to spend a little bit of money on a rifle that they're going to use the rest of their life. I only touched a few. These are things that I have personally. Um, and then also that 410 single shot I have. But consider these things. You get a child, that's maybe too young to hunt right now, but they're going to hunt. You're going to take them hunting. Eventually, they're going to deer hunt. What are you going to get for them? What are you going to use for them? Are you going to go out and just buy one? That's fine. But if you don't have the money, or you don't want to take that initial investment because you're just not sure they're going to be able to do it, they're gonna want to all the time. Maybe you already have an AR-15, or maybe you've been considering getting one for yourself. Well, a good justification for it is, hey, my kid can use it too. That always works with the wife. Not always. Maybe you've got a pistol caliber carbine with a shorter stock. That could certainly work. Along those lines, like a Winchester, or a Marlin, 1894 in 357. A little Rossi lever action 357, that would work as well. Maybe even 44 Magnum, depends on the kid. You certainly don't want something that they just shrug their head and don't like the recoil, because they're not going to want to shoot it. Maybe you've got an SKS, a 3030, a little 243, something sitting around. When the kid gets ready, take him out, let him shoot it. Along those lines with the 3030, you've got one that fits them. You can buy loads that are like 130 grain that are considerably less recoil, and they're more than adequate for deer at closer ranges. There's things you can do to get them to work up to those cartridges. The SKS works really well. There's all kind of little single shots out there that are inexpensive. Maybe you have one. Maybe you've got access to one. Make it fun. It doesn't have to be a high-tech sport. They don't have to have the latest bolt-action rifle with a Swarovski scope and range finding and video capability and all that stuff. Lots of kids killed their first deer with an old single-shot shotgun with a slug thrown in it. An SKS. Some kind of beat-up old single-shot rifle. I mean, my first several deer hunts were with my mom's 20-gauge pump, and then later I moved on to my dad's SKS. And then Dad bought me a muzzleloader because I could use that during gun season or muzzleloader season. And I could use it in shotgun only areas, etc. He didn't want to spend a lot of money on different guns for me. That may be another option. Maybe you can download a muzzleloader that you've got and you let them shoot a crossbow. I've certainly considered this with my daughter. I have a crossbow with an adjustable stock, and I've considered taking her with that. Now let her shoot past 30 yards. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But get them out, get them shooting, get your BB gun, build your trap, shoot in the house, get them shooting and get them used to it. Get outside, shoot 22s, get out to the range, shoot 22s, shoot different things, shoot pistols. My daughter loves to shoot my Beretta Neos 22 pistol. I mean, she just adores it. She wants to shoot my 9mm. I haven't let her yet. But get them out, get them shooting. Find something they're comfortable with. Find something that will kill deer at close range. Keep the shots close. Even if you're hunting wheat fields, things like that, position your stand where the shots are going to be preferably under 50 yards, certainly under 100. I prefer under 50, 25 is better. And someone's going, well, that's awful close. That I mentioned in other videos, I've shot deer from 6, that was on the ground, from 6 to 300 yards. It can be done. So, practice, get them in close. Get a gun that they're not scared of, that they can shoot well. And what is well? Well, you know what? Here's my theory. A lot of young kids from a bench can shoot pretty well. And I'll practice a little bit from a bench with my daughter, but we practice seated, we practice standing, leaning over a fence post, things like that. And I want her to keep it in something about this size. About a 3 or 4 inch circle. And that can be 25, 50 yards. That gives plenty of room for error. And it's practical. You say, oh, no. They should be able to shoot a 1-inch group. Okay. Set that out at 50 yards with an iron-sighted rifle. Stand offhand. See how many times you hit it. Well, I'll hit it every time. Okay. If you're that good, that's fine. I've watched expert marksmen in the Army not be able to hit that at 100 yards or at 50 yards every time, standing offhand. Personally, at 50, shooting something like this offhand, I can hit it. I can hit it most of the time. It's not as easy as you think. At 100, standing offhand, gets a little tricky. Practice seated, rest in the elbows, teach them positions, teach them how to use a sling, get a set of shooting sticks, etc. Practice. But if the best group they can get is something like this at 25 yards, keep your shots to 25 yards and take them out there. It's all about having fun. Deer comes by at 25 yards and they can shoot a group like this at 25 yards, you're having backstrap for supper, and that's all there is to it. So this is Veteran Outdoorsman. I hope you got something out of this. If you've got any other things you'd like to add, please put them in the comments. God bless you, and we'll catch you later.